Good morning from Green Island again on a lovely, beautiful, sunny November morning. November is often a month in the garden where people don't have much going on. They often put the garden to bed for the winter. But for me, it's a really important month. It could be considered past its best when the autumn colour has gone and not quite ready for spring coloured, the snowdrops and the New Year bulbs. But there's a beautiful group of plants which peak at with their flowers in the middle of November. They're called autumn flowering camellias. Most of them are Camellia sasanqua, which originated in Japan, and they're not widely grown in the UK, and I think that's probably because people just don't know about them. They don't go to garden centres in November, or if they do, they're going to look for Christmas decorations. And most of the garden centres don't really stock many of these sasanquas and autumn flowering camellias because people just aren't buying for their gardens at that time of year. But actually, they are a fantastic group of plants. With flowers similar to the spring flowering cousins, they look equally spectacular, but they have masses of advantages over the spring flowering ones. They're relatively fast growing. They are much more tolerant of less than perfect conditions, soil conditions for camellias. The spring flowering camellias are notoriously known for needing acid soil, needing a spot that is out of the morning sunshine, gets lots of moisture, etc., etc. But these autumn flowering ones are slightly more tolerant. So if your soil is not acidic, if you've got a medium loam, you can plant these in full sun and they will tolerate that. They produce a prolific amount of flowers, usually from the end of October right through November. Some of them carry on through December and even into January. Most of the flowers are single, they're large, but they're not as blousy and big as the japonica and the spring flowering ones. They also tend to drop their flowers once they've passed. They don't hold on to them, keeping a series of faded, mushy brown flowers as some of the spring flowering ones do. They also have a scent, beautifully scented camellias, which is great at this time of year. This one here that we're standing in front of is called Camellia sasanqua Setsugekka, and it's one of the earliest ones to come into flower here. Particularly nice in the woodland, on the edge of a woodland, covered with these lovely white flowers with these prominent yellow stamens. Excellent for insects as well. That's what the scent does, it attracts them. Once I discovered Camellia sasanquas and autumn flowering ones, I started collecting a few and originally planted probably about 10 of the most common varieties, and I'll show you those in a moment. But it was a few years ago when I started realising that there'd been bred a lot more cultivars and not widely available. I was encouraged to start a national collection. So we have done that now. So some of the plants I'm going to show you are quite small at the moment and they're in their infancy, but it is really exciting every year to see a few more of them flowering. They do need an ample amount of moisture during the summer in order to flower well. The other good thing about them is that their new foliage in the spring when they put it on is often a beautiful red and purpley colour, so really attractive. They can also be clipped and grown as hedges or specimen plants. They can be grown in pots, so really versatile group of plants. Now this shrub is Camellia sasanqua Hugh Evans. I would say it's probably the best, most reliable, most free flowering variety of sasanqua camellia you can get. It starts flowering at the end of September, beginning of October. So today we're right at the end of November. So it's actually gone past its, what I would say, peak. But it does keep on producing more flowers, as you can see, lots and lots more buds. And it will still be flowering through into January. It forms quite a dense shrub, this one. And now we do actually have to prune it to keep it to size. But it doesn't mind that at all. A lot of the sasanquas produce a more open, branching, upright, almost like a small tree structure, but shrub size. But as I say, this one is quite a dense one. The foliage is evergreen and the leaves are small and glossy, much more pointed than most of the japonicas and Williamsii hybrids. But really, really lovely shrub. Again, lovely scented blooms. Here we have another lovely camellia. This one is called Camellia sasanqua Lavender Queen. And this has the open branching habit of like the shape of a small tree. So very elegant shrub, this one. This one I think would be slightly less suitable for clipping into a hedge. Nevertheless, beautiful blooms, really strong pink. It is called lavender pink, which is slightly misleading, but I guess the bloom is slightly on the purple side of pink. But again, lovely flowers. And then planted right next door to it, we have this lovely one here called Momozono-nishiki. A lot of the sasanquas have blooms quite similar to this, in that the buds are quite pink, and then they open out to these lovely white flowers with pink on the back of the petals. So a lovely contrast with the flowers there. Now, this one is Camellia sasanqua Gay-Sue, probably my favourite white. You can see the blooms here are quite double, beautifully structured, but the best thing is the gorgeous, gorgeous scent they release. Probably the most scented variety, this one. There are lots and lots of whites. This one, Gay-Sue, is quite hard to get hold of at the moment. Not sure why. Could probably be to do with Brexit and the problems importing young plants to this country, but I'm sure nurserymen and us ourselves indeed are trying to cultivate a lot more of these so that they become more widely available. It's probably the most sought after variety that we have here in the nursery. This camellia is Camellia sasanqua Crimson King. As you come through the woods on a November or December morning, you just suddenly see all these red blooms, and it just reminds me of Christmas. It's so cheery, it can't fail to put a smile on your face. This one flowers probably into January, so it does go through the Christmas period, not quite as early to start, so November to January usually for me. The first few years it flowered, the flowers were definitely more crimson than they are now. It's very strange, they're peculiar plants, these, that they can flower slightly differently each year depending on the conditions. Some years some of the white varieties will have more pink on the back of the flowers than other years. Some years there'll be no pink at all, and as I say, these ones now I would say are almost a deep pink rather than crimson. But as I say, the first few years it really was very red, but nevertheless a beautiful variety. Now, this camellia you might not choose to grow in your garden for the most spectacular flowers. They're absolutely tiny, very pretty, but it's Camellia sinensis, and it's what they use to make tea. They've also used it to hybridize a lot with the sasanquas and other varieties in order to create a lot of the hybrids that are now becoming available. So an interesting plant to note. As I said, Camellia sasanquas originated in Japan. A lot of them have been imported to Australia and some to America, where a lot of plant breeders have specialised on them, and they've developed new hybrids. A lot of the hybrids have been crossed with Camellia oleifera, which has tiny small white flowers, or sinensis, which is the tea camellia, and they've produced different hybrids. And they've bred lots more hybrids specifically to be better flowers, bigger flowers, and more reliable. This is a lovely hybrid we've got here. This one's called Pink Goddess. You can see it's absolutely covered in blooms. It is one of our newer plants. You can see it's quite small and we've still got it protected. But even being a young plant, it's still flowering really, really well. And just over from that one, we have this one here, which is another hybrid. This one's called Sekio, with slightly double flowers, but again, lots and lots of blooms, even on a young plant, but really, really pretty flowers. Now, there's a series of hybrids that were bred in the United States called the Ackerman hybrids, and a lot of them, they start with winter or winters. This variety is called Winter's Toughie, and these Ackerman hybrids have been bred specifically to be more hardy than some of the other sasanqua camellias. a few of them which grow well in France now and maybe not totally 100% hardy over here in the UK, but as our winters become milder, and certainly in a sheltered spot, they're absolutely fine here, and I think they're going to be a really good plant going forwards. But this one goes on flowering right through winter. It'll still be flowering in February. Really pretty blooms. This is another beautiful hybrid. It's called Camellia Sugar Dream, and these flowers are just so absolutely sumptuous. Lovely double flowers, thick, deep centre of beautiful yellow stamens, and it flowers for a couple of months, but really, really special, this one. This Camellia sasanqua rainbow is one of the earliest ones that I planted in the gardens. It was one of the ones that was readily available when we moved here. It's a pretty variety. Again, the pink buds opening to white flowers, a very reliable flowerer. It always flowers, unlike some of the other sasanquas, which can be a little more temperamental and hard to find the right place for. But this one's made a very, very large sprawling shrub, so I think we definitely need to address that this year and prune it severely. The other thing is the flowers are not quite as big as some of the other newer varieties that they've been superseded by. So it's still a good, reliable variety, but not the one I would choose perhaps if I wanted a white with pink buds. So most of the autumn flowering camellias we've looked at so far have either been sasanquas or hybrids. There is another species of autumn flowering camellias. This one's hiemalis. So this one is Camellia hiemalis, Sparking Burgundy is the hybrid. And this is proving a nice reliable variety for us here in the seaside garden. It's a lovely sunny spot, although it's not sunny now. It is south facing, so it gets lots and lots of sun, but it's making a really nice shaped shrub, and it's flowering reliably with these lovely full double form flowers. Lovely. So even if you've only got a tiny garden and you'd like an autumn flowering camellia, there are dwarf ones, and this one is called Camellia Dwarf Shishi. This one's been here several years, and it really stays nice and compact, packed with buds. It has been flowering on and off for several weeks, but they're deep pink, double multi-petaled flowers over a long period of time. Suitable for growing in a pot as well, but will brighten up a good 6 weeks, 8 weeks from November through December. So here we have another dwarf shishi, just to demonstrate the flowers here. Really tiny as well to get, thank you Lola, to go with the size of the shrub. So we've looked at a lot of the camellias that we've got planted out in the garden already, and I mentioned that we've now got a national collection. We have about 110 different varieties of autumn flowering camellia. Some of them are still in pots waiting to go out, and I'll give you a sneak preview of what you can expect to see if you come over the next few years to visit the collection. So in here, as you see, we've got several small ones that we're growing on to plant out in a while. This one here is called Bonanza, lovely double deep crimson flowers, and this one is rather special here, Navajo it's called. Beautiful pink, deep pink buds, and it opens to these pretty flowers with this lovely rainbow pink edge to it. Really, really pretty. So we do have a lot of the camellias I've shown you for sale in our nursery. You can see they've actually been put away into the tunnel now for the winter, but we do offer a mail order service as well, but lots and lots of different varieties full of flowers. Just send us an email or visit our website for more details. And thank you for watching.